All right, so traveling is finally opening up again, and at the end of this month I'm going to be heading to Senja, which is in the north of Norway in the Arctic Circle, to do some camping and some backpacking and some photography there. Now, I've made a few videos before about what I take with me on photography trips, but this one is a little bit different because this time I'm going to be camping, I'm going to be out in the backcountry, so weight and going light is even more of a priority than it normally is. Now, typically when I'm out shooting the landscape, I'll take something like this. This is an f-stop ultralight pack, and it's what I'll take with me on workshops and things like that if I'm just going to be out for the day shooting on location. Now, I made a video about what I take with me last year, so if you want to know what it is that I take with me on a typical day out, then I'll check that video. I'll put a link above for you to see. But basically, this is what it is. It hasn't really changed that much. Usually there is an X-T4 here. I'm using that to record this video on. Last year I was using an X-T3 as my second camera, but I've switched that out now for an XS10 because this is a little bit lighter, and I like having image stabilization on both my cameras, particularly the one that's attached to the telephoto lens. Before, I was using a Mavic 2 Pro drone, which I've now swapped for an Air 2S. Again, you save about half a kilogram. It has exactly the same sensor and the same video quality, the same photo quality as a Mavic 2 Pro, but you save a fair bit of weight. What I found in the past was that I would often leave a couple of batteries behind, leave a battery behind just to save weight. So I only had like 1 or 2 batteries with the drone, but with this, because it's lighter, it's easy to take both batteries with you. On this trip though, I'm going to be wild camping, which means I'm going to need to take with me things like a tent and a sleeping bag, as well as food and everything that you need for a couple of nights out in the backcountry. And because there's going to be some quite long hikes, 6 or 7 hours with quite significant elevation gain, the stuff that I would normally take with me, it's just too much. I need to try to keep the least amount of gear and go as light as possible. And because photography gear is normally the heaviest gear, that means taking the minimum amount of photography gear that I'm going to need for the things I'm going to be doing, which is still photography, which is recording video like vlogs, as well as B-roll. So this is what I would normally take with me. This is the pack that I would use. It's an Osprey Atmos 55 litre. Now, it's not an ultralight pack. The pack itself weighs about 2 kilos, but one of the reasons that I like this pack so much is it's just so comfortable to carry because of the suspension system. On the back here, it has this kind of trampoline mesh which lifts the pack away from your back, and it's really nice. I just find that you can carry this for a long time if you keep the weight at the bottom and you try to take most of the weight through the hip straps rather than the shoulder straps, because if you have the weight here, that's going to be closer to your hips, where your center of gravity is, where your core is, where you've got the most strength. You don't want to be putting weight like the camera gear at the top of the pack, because even though it's relatively easier to get at it there, that means that you're going to have the weight in the top. It makes you unbalanced, it makes your top heavy, the weight's kind of pulling away, putting more weight on your shoulders. So the camera gear generally goes at the bottom. Right, so let's have a look. So the camera basically is in here. This is an f-stop Navin. Now, I would normally take with me 2 bodies when I'm out for the day, but because weight is an issue, I'm only going to have 1 body and 2 lenses in here. So normally there'll be the X-T4, but I'm using that for the video. So I've got the XS10 here now with the 55 to 200, and this bag is actually deep enough for me to fit the wide-angle lens in there, the 10 to 24, but I think on this trip I'm gonna try taking something like the 16 to 80, give that lens a test. So I've got a feeling, because I'm going to be shooting a lot of video, that those mid-ranges are going to be quite important. Now, I generally love shooting wide angle and ultra wide angle shots, but I find they don't work as well when you're shooting from elevation, when you're at the top of a mountain. They make mountains a lot smaller, and when you're shooting ultra wide angle images, you're generally working with a foreground that's really, really close, and then a focal point in the background. I've talked about this in other videos. But shooting from the top of mountains, that's generally not the kind of composition that works best, because any mountain is going to be reduced in size, and the foreground is going to be more prominent in the image, which kind of loses a lot of the scale that you get from when you're shooting in mountains. So I think a mid-range zoom is going to be better, so I'll be using the 16 to 80 along with a 55 to 200, and all that fits in this bag here. I can fit the camera with the lens at the bottom And then basically just the one filter. This is a Polar Pro CPL polarizing filter. It's the only filter I'm going to be taking with me. I generally only use long exposures for when I'm shooting water and things like that. I don't tend to use them that much when I'm shooting in the mountains. You can use them for blurring clouds and stuff like that, but because I'm trying to cut down on weight, I'm just going to be taking a polarizer with me, which is going to help cut through haze and things like that. And then in the front pocket of this, I've got basically my spare cards and a couple of spare batteries for the camera. The X-T4 generally has pretty good battery life. I can get by with the battery and the camera and 2 spare batteries that will usually last me a couple of days. But I do have a solution for that just in case the battery runs out. Then in here, this is like a little pouch which has just got cables in it for recharging things like my phone if the phone runs dry, and it's got got a small Anker battery in there and a couple of USB cables. This is also useful for charging this, which is the Pocket 2, the DJI Pocket 2, which I'm going to be using to vlog and to record most of the time while I'm traveling there. Now, I really like this. I used to use the Osmo 3 with my mobile phone. I thought that was a really nice option, but the Osmo 3, it's a lot heavier than this. This weighs just 200 grams. And the other problem with the Osmo is that when you want to record audio, you're kind of dependent on the audio from your phone. And setting up things like the lavalier mic like this to the Osmo to the phone, it gets quite complicated and then it just adds more weight. So this is just an all-round lighter solution. I've got this little pouch here, and in here, this is another pouch. This has on it a small thing. This attaches to the bottom of the Osmo and it works as a remote control for a lavalier mic. So you plug this into the bottom of the Osmo and then you can connect a lavalier mic to your pocket, to your jacket. So you get really nice audio. So this is a lighter solution for me than using my mobile phone and an Osmo 3 gimbal. So that lives in the hip pocket there where I can get at it and use it very quickly. If I want to be shooting on the go, we're going to be hiking, going to be moving. So that works really nice for that. And the other thing, just to get all the photography gear out, is this. This is an f-stop, the small ICU. I think it's the nano ICU, and this basically has the drone in it. So in here, I've got the controller and the DJI Air 2S drone, as well as this is basically a shield that goes around the phone, because when you're flying a drone and you're in bright sunlight, it's almost impossible to see the phone screen. This is a DJI shield which whips nicely around the phone and keeps it off the screen. Makes it a lot easier to fly. So the drone goes in here, and this is quite well protected. So this goes in the bag, and it's quite solid. This has got the camera in it, and then there's just this pouch here where I've got a couple of spare batteries for the drone. This stuff, as I said, which is for the Osmo. And then I've also got this, going to take this. This is a Laowa 9mm ultra wide angle lens. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to take this. This is if I do take the 16 to 80, and then I do find myself doing some coastal photography in one of the days. If I want to go ultra wide, then this is a lens that I'm going to be using to do some ultra wide shots. But overall, this is the whole of the camera gear. It fits down pretty small. Now, all this camera gear together weighs in at about 5.5 kilos, which isn't as light as I would want it to be. I could take the XS10 to save a little bit of weight, but I do like the reliability, the durability of the X-T4, the weather sealing, and the fact that it just has better battery life. I love the XS10, it's a lovely camera, but the battery life on it isn't the best. All right, so in the top of the bag, we've got shelter, stuff like that, what I'm going to be needing for sleeping. So let's just open this, get it out. So this is the sleeping bag, and here is the sleeping pad. And then here's the tent. So what we've got here is, this is a Big Agnes Copper Spur HL1 one-man tent. This weighs in at about 1 kilo. Don't take the footprint with me. I really have never seen the point of footprint. I know they do extend the life of the bottom of your tent, but if you're careful about where you're pitching it, then you're fine without a footprint. This is a great tent. Again, you can get lighter if you're going to take a tent where you can use the tracking poles, but at 1 kilo, it's pretty good. Now, I find When you're camping, there's the payoff between comfort and lightness. If you want to have a little bit more comfort, then it's going to cost you a little bit in terms of kilograms and the weight that you're carrying. But on the other hand is that, you know, an extra hour's sleep is like saving a few kilograms. If you don't sleep very well, it just makes your backpack feel a lot heavier. So I do like to have a little bit of comfort and not go absolutely minimal. And I find that this tent is just really great. There's plenty of space in it. It's got lots of storage options, so you can fit your stuff in there. It's comfortable when you're spending plenty of nights in there. I think we're going to be away for 5 or 6 nights. I'm going to be sleeping in this for 6 nights. It's nice to have a little bit of space. It's got a nice vestibule, so I can keep the backpack and my boots inside the vestibule and not get them wet. This is my sleeping bag. This is the Big Agnes Anvil Horn 15 degrees sleeping bag now. So its comfort rating is down to 15 degrees Celsius, but you can actually go a little bit colder than that. The survival rating is a little bit lower, but you're not necessarily going to be comfortable, and you will need to be willing to put on a few layers, wear a couple of pairs of socks, wear a hat, wear your down jacket and your fleece. The other thing is that I don't really get on very well with mummy sleeping bags. I tend to turn around a lot in the night. I really need to sleep on my side. I can't sleep on my back. And mummy sleeping bags just don't work for me. I don't sleep well. I need to turn on my side. I roll off the sleeping bag. So this bag is a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. I think it's a little bit underneath a kilo. This sleeping bag's about 900 grams, something like that. But again, it's the payoff that you make for comfort and being able to sleep better. With this sleeping bag, I can actually sleep on my side with my knees up a little bit. I can twist and turn and not fall off the mat and not end up in a big knot and get plenty of sleep. And then this is the sleeping pad that I've got. This is, again, Big Agnes Q-Core insulated SLX. So it's an insulated sleeping bag. This is really nice. It's quite thick. So when this is fully inflated, you can sit on this, you can sleep on your side and your shoulder, your hip. They're not going to push through to the ground below, which is what's going to make you cold. This will lift you off the ground. It's got insulated lining on the inside of it, so it keeps you really, really warm. And one of the things that I like about Big Agnes is that they have this sleep system where the sleeping bag and the sleeping pad fit together. So this actually has a sleeve in the back of it where you can put the sleeping mat. And it attaches it there and fixes it there, so the sleeping bag and the mat are attached together, so you can't really roll off. You're fixed onto the sleeping bag. So for someone like me who twists and turns around a lot at night, this is great. I'm not going to fall off and I'm going to sleep really well. The other thing about this is the sleeping bag. The actual bag for this doubles as a pump, so you can basically pull it out like this and use this to pump up the sleeping bag, which when you've been walking all day and you're a little bit out of breath or you've just walked up a peak, the idea of blowing up your sleeping bag, you're going to run out of oxygen. It's not going to make you feel good. Also, you're going to be putting humidity from your breath on the inside of the sleeping pad. So this sack is really nice. It's really great for inflating the sleeping pad. And then the final thing is just a small inflatable pillow, which fits nicely inside a sleeve on the sleeping bag. Again, because I like to be, it's a trade-off for comfort, and I do like to have a little bit of comfort and sleep as well as I can when I'm out in a tent. So altogether then, sleeping pad, sleeping bag, tent, that's about 2.7 kilos that we're at so far. That's relatively light. You can go lighter if you want to be ultra light when you're camping, but for me, that's pretty good. And it's about as light as I'm happy to go with that amount of weight. All right, next is the clothes. So there's what I'm going to be wearing, which is going to be hiking boots. These are a brand new pair. My pair that I've been using for the last couple of years finally fell apart. I'm going to be walking a little bit in this before I take them hiking, just to wear them in. But these are quite lightweight hiking boots because I'm going to be there in the summer. I don't need something really heavy, something really, really strong. These are great for the kind of summer hiking that I'm going to be doing. But if I was going to be there in the winter, then I'd want something a little bit more substantial than these. And a long sleeve t-shirt. This is merino, everything merino. It breathes really well, dries really quickly. A lightweight fleece. And Fjällräven hiking trousers. I love Fjällräven trousers. They're bomb-proof. They've got brilliant pockets. They fit really well. They dry quickly. They're relatively water resistant. They're just great trousers. So pretty much this is what I'm going to be wearing all the time when I'm there. And you don't really worry too much about extra clothes. So I've got a few things with me. I'll take like an extra spare t-shirt, a spare pair of underwear, a spare pair of socks, just in case I get really wet, or if it's just nice to have another layer, or if you really do want to change. And also some long johns for night if it gets a little bit cold in the sleeping bag. But when it comes to spare clothes, that's pretty much all that I'll take with me. Now, of course, I'm going to have a couple of jackets with me. This is a down jacket. This is a Arc'teryx Cerium LT, which is it packs down really small, doesn't weigh much, and it's just a really good down jacket. Now, I'm not going to be hiking in this. It's just something nice to have at night when you're sitting around the camp. When we're doing photography, the temperature is going to drop. So it's nice to have something for when you're not moving a lot, when you're not active, something that's going to be warm. So a good down jacket. But generally, when I'm actually hiking, I'm not going to need anything like that. So there's going to be the fleece and then a shell jacket. This is an Arc'teryx Beta SL. It's a super light, which is really good shell. It pretty much keeps out everything and it's pretty lightweight. And just in case, a pair of rain trousers, which you just pull over the boots and the trousers. This is just good if there's torrential rain, because I've only got one pair of trousers with me, and if I get really, really wet, I'm not going to be able to get those trousers dry. So if it does start raining heavily enough for it to start affecting the water resistance of those trousers, then I'm going to be using these over trousers. It's extra weight, but it's something that if you don't have it and you need it, then you really miss it and you regret not having it with you. And a pair of camp slippers, because at the end of the day, you want to take the boots off and just be able to walk around the tent, keep your feet warm. These are really good. They're relatively waterproof. They've got this nice thick rubber sole, so if it's just a little bit wet, you can still wear these and it'll keep your feet dry. And then also in the lid pocket here, again, put in the top of the pack in case I need to get to them. There's a sun hat. To keep the sun off, really important for someone who's pale and white like me. If it gets sunny, even when you're in the Arctic Circle, I like to get a little bit of protection from the sun. Then there's a beanie, just in case it gets cold, to keep the head warm. And what do you call these? A neck warmer. There's a chute. I think there's another word that I'm forgetting, but basically something to keep the neck warm, and a couple of pairs of gloves. And I think that's it. And yeah, this is a waterproof cover for the backpack in case it really rains and the backpack keeps the backpack dry. Now, other things that we've got in here, it's just a wash kit. Now, the wash kit's super small. You don't really want to take much with you. You just need toothpaste and a toothbrush, sun cream, some insect repellent, chapstick. That's pretty much all that I've got in here, and some biodegradable wipes for hygiene, etc., that kind of stuff. So this is relatively lightweight, and there's a few paracetamols, stuff like that in there just in case I need them. Now, other stuff that I've got with me in the lid, there is just things that I'm going to need quickly. So there's sunglasses. I've got a Leatherman knife. This is basically just things like pliers, screwdriver, and a pocket knife. That's all I'm going to be using. There's a head torch, things that I'm going to be getting at, I might need to get out, lens cloths. This is a reflective blanket for, in case you get really, really cold, to keep the heat in. It's basically an emergency blanket. First aid kit, spare batteries for the head torch, and then a mosquito net. This goes over a hat and will keep any mosquitoes or midges out. And that's pretty much it. There's the tripod, which is attached on the outside. I don't want to put this on the inside, it takes up too much space. The tripod is a Gitso 1545 Traveler. It's just a great tripod. I've been using it for years. It's relatively light. It weighs about 1 kilo, a little bit more, and it's just great for what I need. So that goes with me. And then there's a couple of water bottles. These are Hydro Pack. They're kind of flexible, soft water bottles. They have almost no weight whatsoever. So I take a couple of liters, and then because where we are in Norway, we're going to be easily be able to fill up from streams and things like that. And then a few things that are not here are the cooking materials. I'm just going to be taking with me a titanium pot, a 900 milliliter pot for making meals. Everything that I take with me is going to be freeze-dried food. Typically on a hike like this, you're going to be carrying the pack, hiking for quite a few hours each day, you're going to want to replace about 3,000 calories. You're going to need about 3,000 calories a day. You can get by with a little bit less than that, but you're going to lose weight, which means you're going to be more tired towards the end of the hike. So I'm going to be aiming for about 3,000 calories a day, which I'll do with dried food, freeze-dried food. I haven't bought that yet. There's no point getting it until just before I go on the trip. I may even get it when I arrive in Norway, just to save me having to carry all of those meals with me for on the plane. So yeah, but they don't take up a lot of space. Generally, 3,000 calories in freeze-dried food. Also, I'll take with me some, always have a couple of protein bars. These are Cliff bars, they're really good. So generally the food weighs about 700 grams for about 3,000 calories, and it packs down. It's very flat, freeze-dried food, so it packs down easily into the backpack. So a couple of things that I haven't mentioned. Of course, I'll be taking with me a small trowel to bury waste when you're out in the field, but I seem to have lost mine, can't find it anywhere, so I might have to get a new one. And a camping stove, which I'm not going to be carrying. My hiking partner, Jonas, will carry the hiking stove because I've got a little bit more photography equipment than him. So pretty much everything that you see here is enough to get by completely for 2 nights. And altogether, depending on how much water I'm going to be carrying, this weighs in at about 14 or 15 kilos, which is not too bad. It's not too bad at all. And I think that's it for this video. I don't know how interesting or how useful it's been, but if you've got any questions, just drop me a comment or an email and I'll get back to you. And I'll be heading off to Norway in a few weeks, and I'll be shooting quite a few vlogs when I'm there. There'll be some complete workflow videos where I take you through everything from the conception and the composition of an image in the field all the way through to the post-processing, as well as doing some reviews when I'm out there. And if you're interested in joining me in Norway, in Senja and Lofoten next year, I'll be doing a couple of workshops there. They won't be camping workshops. We'll actually be staying in local huts in the area, so you won't have to be doing anything like this. We'll just be staying locally and eating locally and just hiking up into the mountains to shoot in the day. So if you'd like to join me on any of those trips, check out my website. I've got some other workshops on there as well for next year. And basically, yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for watching as ever, and thanks for the support, and all the best until the next time. Take care.